So, you've probably seen it before. A friend pulls out a shiny new iPhone, and another pulls out a sleek Samsung Galaxy. For more than a decade, this choice has been at the center of the tech world. It's more than just picking a phone, it's about picking a side in the greatest rivalry in modern technology. Apple and Samsung are two giants, two titans of the industry, and their competition has shaped the very devices we carry in our pockets every single day. Their battle isn't just about selling the most units. It's a fight for innovation, for design leadership, for the loyalty of millions of customers around the globe. This is a story of two companies with completely different approaches, constantly trying to outdo each other. The rivalry between Apple and Samsung is so fascinating because it's a perfect clash of styles. On one side you have Apple, the master of simplicity, control, and creating a seamless premium experience. Let's rewind to 2007. The world of mobile phones was a very different place. Flip phones with tiny physical keyboards and screens that were, by today's standards, incredibly small. The market was dominated by Nokia and BlackBerry. Samsung was a major player back then too, making all sorts of phones, but nothing had truly captured the world's imagination. Then, on January 9, 2007, Steve Jobs walked onto a stage and introduced a device that would change everything forever. He called it the iPhone. It was a revolutionary product that combined an iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator into one sleek package. The first iPhone wasn't perfect. It couldn't even connect to the fast 3G networks of the time. It didn't have an app store at launch, but what it did have was a massive multi-touch screen and a user interface that was incredibly intuitive and beautiful. This was a monumental shift. Apple wasn't just selling a piece of hardware, they were selling an experience. The iPhone showed the world that a phone could be powerful, personal, and profoundly easy to use. The introduction of the iPhone was the spark that ignited the entire modern smartphone industry, and the rivalry with Samsung. After the iPhone's explosive debut, the clock was ticking for every other phone maker. Samsung, with its massive resources and expertise in making screens, memory, and processors, was in a unique position to respond. In 2010, they launched their answer, the Samsung Galaxy S. This was the phone that officially kicked off the Samsung versus Apple war. It ran on Google's Android, offering an open, customizable alternative, contrasted with Apple's tightly controlled iOS. It featured a big, bright, and beautiful AMOLED screen, a technology where Samsung was the world leader. At the time, its 4-inch display was considered huge compared to the iPhone's 3.5-inch screen. Samsung's strategy became clear: offer more. More screen size, more customization, and more choice. They introduced the Galaxy Note line, which came with a huge screen and a stylus, the S Pen. Many laughed at phablets, but the Note was a massive hit, and it forced Apple to eventually follow with larger iPhones. By pushing screen size and features, Samsung didn't just create a rival, they carved out their own identity. They proved they weren't just a follower, but a leader in their own right, setting the stage for an even more intense conflict with Apple. As the competition between Apple and Samsung heated up, it was only a matter of time before it spilled over into the courtroom. In 2011, Apple filed a massive lawsuit against Samsung, accusing them of slavishly copying the design of the iPhone and iPad. Apple claimed that Samsung's Galaxy devices infringed on their patents, the look and feel of the app icons, the rectangular shape with rounded corners. This lawsuit kicked off a years-long global legal war that would cost both companies hundreds of millions of dollars and generate countless headlines. Apple presented internal Samsung documents, arguing proof of deliberate copying. Samsung argued Apple was stifling competition and that many designs were functional and common. The legal battles became incredibly complex, taking place in courtrooms all over the world. In the end, results were mixed. Juries often sided with Apple, though awards were reduced on appeal. In 2018, both settled remaining disputes. It forced Samsung to craft a distinct design language. Innovations like curved edge displays helped their phones stand out. At the heart of the Apple versus Samsung rivalry are two fundamentally different philosophies. It's, a classic battle between control and choice. Apple's philosophy is all about creating a seamless, integrated, and controlled experience. They design the hardware, the iPhone, and the software, iOS, to work together perfectly. This is what's known as a walled garden or a closed ecosystem. Everything from the App Store to iMessage and FaceTime is designed by Apple for Apple devices. This approach leads to a very smooth, reliable, and secure user experience, but it comes at the cost of customization and freedom. Samsung, on the other hand, champions openness and choice. By using Android, you can change everything from the home screen layout and app icons to the default browser and keyboard. Samsung isn't afraid to pack in features, sometimes even before they're fully polished. Their goal is to give you options, even if it can feel a bit more complex. Apple's ecosystem is legendary for working together almost magically, while Samsung relies on Google for core OS and apps, making their ecosystem more fragmented, but improving through partnerships. This is the central trade-off. Apple offers perfect, simple integration at the cost of control, while Samsung offers endless choice at the cost of seamless simplicity. The war between Apple and Samsung isn't just fought with new features and in courtrooms, it's also a massive battle for our hearts and minds through marketing. Apple's marketing is famous for its clean, minimalist, and emotional style. They focus on the experience, creating art, connecting with loved ones, capturing memories. Think of Shot on iPhone, brilliant because it's not just an ad, it's a demonstration. They rarely mention competitors, acting as if they're in a class of their own. Samsung's strategy is often more direct and aggressive, targeting Apple and poking fun at missing features. They highlighted practical advantages like expandable storage, stylus, or headphone jacks. More recently, they've shifted focus to their own innovations, foldables and powerful cameras. Apple sells you a dream, an emotion, a premium club. Samsung sells you features, power, and the freedom to be different. Both strategies are incredibly effective. Apple built one of the most loyal fan bases. Samsung became the default choice for a huge portion of the Android market. Their marketing battles perfectly reflect their core philosophies. As the smartphone market has matured, the yearly updates have become more incremental. A slightly better camera, a slightly faster processor. To stand out, both Apple and Samsung are pushing the boundaries. Samsung bet big on foldables, the Galaxy Fold and Galaxy Z Flip. It was a huge risk many thought was a gimmick. They refined design, improved hinges, and strengthened screens with each generation. What started niche is slowly going mainstream. Samsung is leading this charge. Apple waits, then enters with polished, user-friendly, well-integrated products. Samsung often had them first, but Apple adopted them in a refined, complete way. Samsung dabbled with Gear VR. Apple entered with Vision Pro, aiming to set a new UX standard, even at a high price. The next battleground won't just be phones, it will be the screens we wear and new ways we interact with the digital world. The competition is global, but it plays out differently by region. In the US, Japan, and other wealthy markets, Apple has a strong hold in the premium segment. The iPhone is a status symbol. The ecosystem keeps users loyal. Apple often dominates profits, even without selling the most units. Globally, Samsung has been the largest smartphone maker by volume for much of the last decade. They compete at every price point with Galaxy S flagships, Z foldables, and A-series mid-budget phones. This scale wins volume across developing Asia, Latin America, and Europe. It's a battle for volume versus a battle for value. In 2023, Apple surpassed Samsung in yearly smartphone shipments, a major milestone. The tug-of-war keeps evolving. Samsung pushes foldables and mid-range, while Apple expands its reach. The fight for number one is more intense than ever before. So, what's next for the greatest rivalry in tech? After more than a decade, the battle is evolving. One of the biggest future battlegrounds will be artificial intelligence. Both are racing to integrate smarter, more predictive AI into devices. Apple is upgrading Siri and weaving AI through iOS, while Samsung pushes Galaxy AI, real-time translation, and advanced photo tools. The competition expands beyond phones. Apple's Vision Pro and Samsung's history with VR show the race to own the next platform. Augmented reality glasses, virtual reality headsets, or something else entirely. These devices could change how we work, play, and communicate, just like the smartphone did. The war will be won with ecosystems. How will phones, watches, earbuds, cars, and homes work together? Apple holds a clear lead in seamless continuity. Samsung is closing gaps via deep Google partnerships. Ultimately, their rivalry pushes faster innovation and better design. Whether you prefer polished simplicity or powerful customization, your device is better because they compete. One thing is certain. the clash will keep shaping our digital lives.